NBA insider Shams of The Athletic came out today and spoke on Kevin Durant's interest for playing with the Toronto Raptors this offseason, as well as what possibility we have at landing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the near future. So we'll break that down in this video, as well as NBA insiders also ranked every single NBA front office, and the Raptors were top 2. So we'll take a look at that list, see if we agree or disagree, and break down a whole bunch more in this video. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors side, just breaking down the latest Toronto Raptors news. And folks, we are so close to 26,000 subscribers, so if you guys want to stay up to date on everything surrounding the Toronto Raptors and haven't hit that sub button, it would mean the world to us to hit that subscribe. And if we could hit that mark on tonight's live stream following our game against the Philadelphia 76ers, that would be absolutely wild. So I appreciate everyone that subscribed and even just checks out the videos. But let's dive into the news. And the first thing we're talking about is KD's thoughts on a Raptors trade have been revealed, as none other than the guy, with maybe exception of Adrian Wojnarowski, the most locked-in reporter in the entire NBA, Shams of The Athletic, came out and hopped on Tim and Fred's, obviously a broadcast on Sportsnet, Canadian News Network, Sports Network channel, and spoke on a lot of interesting topics surrounding the Toronto Raptors. And obviously, the hottest topic all summer was the quest for Kevin Durant, Masai Ujiri trying to acquire another disgruntled star. KD asked out, and the Raptors were among the betting favorites to land KD. Unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately, depending on your perspective, the Raptors couldn't get a deal done, but we have a little indication how Kevin Durant felt about the possibility of joining the Toronto Raptors. Now, Shams came out on Tim and Friends and said, KD, I'm told he viewed the Raptors in a very positive light this off season. And he was saying this in regards to a question that Tim brought up, because there's been a lot of speculation. Brian Windhorst spoke on it, how the Raptors could be big players come the trade deadline, midway through this year. And mostly because we're in a win now mode. We have a lot of young stars, but we also have a lot of guys that have contracts coming up, right? Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., we have to think about the future of Precious Achiuwa, Scotty Barnes. We have a lot of players that are going to command a lot of money. So we kind of have to start managing those books at this point. So people have been speculating whether or not we trade for a star in this entire offseason. Donovan Mitchell and Kevin Durant led the entire speculation. And, it's interesting to see what KD thought on a potential Raptors deal, because obviously these reports have gone all over the place, but when you hear it from, Shams or Adrian Wojnarowski, it's pretty reliable and pretty trustworthy, and makes me look forward to potentially midway through this season, because we've seen what the Brooklyn Nets, almost absolutely collapse in on themselves over, this year's previous season's playoffs and off season. KD asked out, Kyrie Irving, people didn't know what was going on with him. The coach, the GM were asked to be fired by the star players. Ben Simmons sat out, came back in, now he's playing and, is fouling out every second game. It's just still a mess down there. They're losing games. Their one win, ironically, has become against the Toronto Raptors, where all 3 of their stars went nuclear. But maybe that was KD showing off his skills, saying, I want to be here. That's obviously a reach. I'm joking on that front comment section. But if things continue to go south for the Brooklyn Nets, especially where Kyrie Irving is a free agent, especially where I just broke it down on Courtside Digest in our most recent video, definitely check that out after this one, of course. But the Brooklyn Nets have the lowest ticket sales in the entire NBA. So Joe Tsai, after sort of trying to be strongman by his star players, they're not even making him money at this point, drawing in tickets, drawing in views and stuff. So that relationship, I think, could easily snap if the money is definitely not coming in there down in Brooklyn. So if they continue to lose, Kyrie's a free agent. KD already asked out once. Keep your eyes peeled this trade deadline. And the Raptors still have the assets, still have the pieces. I'm not hyping anything up. I'm not overextending what Shams has said to Tim on this segment, but just keep your eyes peeled. Keep your eyes on what's going on down there in Brooklyn, because if they continue to struggle, a blockbuster trade could potentially occur. That's my take, at least. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below, but we have more to dive into. The next thing we're discussing is the Raptors voted the second best managed team in the entire NBA. Now, ESPN broke down, had league insiders just essentially rank how they viewed each front office's ability of managing their teams. And the Toronto Raptors came in at second on this list. I apologize, this graphic is a little bit smaller. The bot made it a little bit small in this image, but just behind the Miami Heat and just ahead of the LA Clippers, Golden State Warriors, Milwaukee Bucks, the Toronto Raptors came in second. Now, you can't complain being ranked. Obviously, it's a subjective list, but coming in second is no shabby ranking. But the Miami Heat obviously have succeeded in recent years. They've also acquired a few free agents, which I don't know if that's the front office is doing or whatnot, but I digress on that point. They've also handed out some pretty suspect contracts, and their front office has gotten a lot of flack in recent weeks for giving away a guy in Precious Propaganda. That's not his name, but we do be bringing up the propaganda a bunch. But Precious Achiuwa, giving him away for essentially they didn't really have to in a Kyle Lowry sign-in trade. So, they got under a little fire of that. And the Miami Heat have given out some suspect contracts. You look at the Dion Waiters deal, the Tyler Johnson deal. Guys paid close to, high teens, low 20s $million per year contracts that didn't pay off. Hassan Whiteside was another tough contract that they gave out down there in Miami. I know the Raptors haven't been perfect by any means. The Aaron Baines deal, which wasn't a big one, wasn't high risk, but the DeMarre Carroll one always takes some heat from Raptors fans over the past, that's like 7 years ago now. That's crazy how time flies, but neither front office is perfect. I don't mind this ranking, and I found it interesting too that the Clippers were ranked third, and the Clippers' essentially strategy is to copy whatever the heck the Toronto Raptors are doing. Oh, Toronto Raptors player? Let's bring him into the roster. Let's see how this works out. So, they're ranked third, just essentially copying the notes of Masai Ujiri, looking over, seeing what they can do. So, it's working well when your copycat is out here being the third best managed team in the NBA. Obviously, I'm memeing a little bit there, but some interesting stuff on that front. But let's dive back into the trade rumors and Shams talk, what he said on that Tim and Friends segment. And Shams spoke on the Raptors potentially landing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the near future. Now, this has been a topic that I've seen pop up a bunch. I've tried not to cover it in depth on the channel because I just really don't think this has any chance in happening in the near future. And this is essentially what the sentiment that Shams relayed on the Tim and Friends segment. Because while yes, he's Canadian, while yes, the Oklahoma City Thunder are probably in another tanking season, they're struggling to start the year, and Shai is really coming into his own. I know it's early, it's a small sample size, but averaging roughly 36 and 5. That's some pretty remarkable numbers for a young guard in the NBA. Is dealing with injury issues. The young draft pick that they drafted in Chet Holmgren is out for the entire season. So we'll see how that ends up playing up. And people are just banking on that, or expecting Shai to be the next star to request a trade, as he's been on a tanking team for the past 2-3 seasons. So while I see the train of thought by a lot of Raptors fans, if you look into the nuances, and this is what Shams said, it's probably not going to happen because Shai ended up signing a 5-year extension with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yes, it was a big money deal, but he knew what he was getting into when he signed that extension. He's come out publicly and said Oklahoma City is where he wants to be. He wants to build up with this young group. He's committed to the organization, right? Their GM has come out and spoke directly on all the rumors and saying we have constant conversations with Shai and that they want to make moves happen. I know it's fun to troll Oklahoma City Thunder fans because they weirdly get very defensive. Not weirdly, I guess it makes sense if someone are trying to say, oh, we're acquiring Scotty Barnes in 4 years. I'm sure Raptors fans would be saying the same stuff, but OKC fans get very defensive at Raptors fans, and especially this summer. But yeah, Shams is essentially saying it's very, very unlikely. And while the Raptors are certainly monitoring it, many teams across the NBA are monitoring the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander situation. And if in a hypothetical world he does request a trade, I'm sure the Toronto Raptors would jump into it. And that's essentially what Shams relayed on the Tim and Fred segment. So I don't think there's too much to read into on that front. Maybe I could be wrong on my overall assessment, but I would love to be wrong. I'd love to have Shai on this team. But let me know what you guys think. What year do you think Shai will be coming to Toronto? I want to hear those predictions in the comment section below. But the final thing we're discussing in this video is the Raptors have the 2 best isolation defenders this season. Now, as I mentioned with the Shai stats, the statistics, especially the advanced stuff, they can be misleading oftentimes, with advanced stats are just always very misleading, so don't dive into them too much. But it's fun when you see a couple of Raptors fans, Raptors players at the top of some of these cool lists. And the first one, and the one we're looking at today, is the top 10 isolation defenders based on points per possession are 2 Toronto Raptors, and that's OG Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr. So two guys that I've been talking about as elite defenders on this channel for the past, since Gary Trent Jr. was traded here, since OG Anunoby was drafted by us back in one of the first seasons we had this channel rocking. So no surprises. They're both at the top two. It's cool to see. It's a small sample size, but if you look at the rest of the list, this is a list that's going around Raptors land right now. You see Tyler Hero. You see, I guess the rest of them, but Bojan Bogdanovic probably won't be on this list by the end of the year, I'd say. Tyler Hero, Damian Lee, there's a couple weird names on the list, but it's cool. The Raptors are at the very top. Two Raptors rocking out on the defensive end. So we have all that we're breaking down. We have all that we want to discuss. I got things popping up on my screen left, right, and center. But folks, you guys are the best for making this far. And as mentioned, if you guys could subscribe to the channel, it would mean the world to me, because if we can hit that 26K mark by the live stream tonight, that would be absolutely wild. But maybe it's ambitious, but I trust the Raptors Digest community. But you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.